All right, so typically when you guys are learning foundational anatomy, you guys are learning the joint action, and then the muscle that produces that action. So for example, your elbow joint, it could either extend or it could flex. You have your tricep that produces elbow extension, your bicep that produces elbow flexion. But then when you guys try to apply it practically, especially during an exercise, things kind of get a little bit weird because when you add gravity to the mix, it can change which muscle is working. So for example, I want you guys to imagine a bicep curl. If you're really controlling the way down, what muscle is contracting during this portion of the lift? On paper, you know that the tricep produces elbow extension, which is technically true, but in this case, because you have gravity pushing down and you're trying to slow the rate of elbow extension, it's actually the bicep that's eccentrically contracting, which means it's producing force, but it's lengthening in order to slow the rate of that elbow extension. I'm sure some of you guys are a little bit more confused now that I explained that, so I have a little diagram to help you guys visualize it a little bit better. Follow me. All right, imagine you have two pieces of wood attached to this joint. You have another piece of wood here with a cup of water on it. You have gravity going down this way, and you have a pulley system with two ropes. They end here in the picture, but pretend they can go on for infinity. Rope number one is attached to the top of the wood relative to gravity. Rope number two is attached to the bottom side. So if you were to pull on rope number one, all it would do is pull the wood up this way, and let's call that flexing this joint. If you pulled on rope number two, because it's on the bottom side of the piece of wood, it would pull the rope this way, and let's call that extending or straightening this joint. And then let's say you have a table right here. Now, if you had to slowly bring this cup of water down to the table and place it so that it doesn't spill, which rope would you use? Rope number one or two? I'll give you guys a second to use your brains here. Now, hopefully you guys use your brains and chose rope number one, because even though if you pull on it, it pulls the wood up this way, if you were to slowly release it, slowly lengthen this rope, it would allow this joint to extend slowly, and then you could put the cup of water down on the table without spilling it. For you guys that chose rope number two, first of all, shame on you. And second of all, the reason that wouldn't work is because it's on the bottom side. So it doesn't matter if you go fast or slow pulling this rope, because gravity is acting downward on this piece of wood. This is just going to straighten super fast and the cup of water is going to slam down, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if your customer is being an asshole. But in this case, you have a good customer, you have a nice customer, so you want to be very polite with the way you put the water down. And this is basically the difference between a concentric and an eccentric contraction. Because in real life, this would be your humerus, this is your upper arm, this is your forearm, this is your hand holding a cup of water. And rope number one would be your bicep, number two would be your tricep. Now, when you're putting this cup of water down, technically that's elbow extension. Technically, the tricep produces elbow extension when it contracts, but because we're throwing gravity into the mix, that changes things. Now the bicep is still contracting, and it's contracting eccentrically so that it allows the elbow to extend slowly. And that's how you can tell the difference between a concentric or eccentric contraction. Is the muscle contracting? Yes. Is it lengthening or is it shortening? In this case, it's contracting and lengthening, so it's an eccentric contraction. Now the tricep here, yeah, if you wanted to slam this cup of water down super fast, then you would use the tricep, because you imagine if this were to shorten, it would straighten the elbow super fast, and then you would slam the water on the table. But that would be a concentric contraction because the tricep is producing force, but it's shortening. So that's pretty much it. That's what you guys got to ask yourself. Which muscle is it? Which muscle is producing force? Is it lengthening or is it shortening? And then if you guys have more questions or concerns, feel free to drop a follow or like or comment. Okay, bye guys.